or think it, whatever you'd like to do.
Okay.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
Okay, I think we are completed. Carrie, could you please call the roll?
Yes, Chairman Earl Kurtz,
Here.
Dr. Charles Dimick,
Present.
David Brzezowski,
Here.
Tom Norbach, Will McPhee.
I'm here.
Okay, we do have a quorum. Next, I would entertain a motion
Okay, we do have a
regarding,
forum.
I would entertain a motion regarding the determination or the approval of the minutes of the last meeting.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes. I don't remember if Dr. Dimick had changes.
There were two minor changes. I think I should have sent the copy to everyone of the
Okay,
changes.
I probably saw. Okay, so with your changes, with Dr. Dimick's changes.
Okay,
Second.
second. Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
No opposed. Carried. Next, we have communications. And at this point, I would let Suzanne read them off. And if she has comments, we'll take it from there.
Okay.
Suzanne?
First is a letter of support request from the Regional Water Authority regarding the town acquiring open space property at 257 Fenn Road. Just a little bit of backstory. The Regional Water Authority is preparing an application for an open space grant, which the town will be submitting to the state of Connecticut to receive money in order to buy the property to keep as passive recreation open space. The commission may remember that this property was subject of a development approval for a subdivision, and there were some other actions on the site as far as a cease and desist order, which is still standing on this parcel. No development has moved forward after the initial clearing was done. And so this letter is from the Regional Water Authority asking if the Wetlands Commission would write a letter to the state of Connecticut supporting the town purchasing the property.
Mr. Chairman, I move we handle this now rather than waiting for new business so we don't forget it. And my suggestion is that we have staff draft a letter and that you and I go over the draft and approve it and have it sent out in the name of the commission.
I think maybe a general feeling of the commissioners present. Is this something we're in favor of? Whoever writes it is going to represent the commission. Is there anyone who has any ideas or objections or something that should be specifically mentioned or specifically left out?
It's immediately adjacent to property that is already either under land trust control or town control. And there are a number of reasons why it's probably better left as open space, partly because of that being adjacent, partly because it's around the Mill River, are all things that we would like to protect.
And it's something the Cheshire Land Trust is in support of, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, this would be, just to clarify, this property does abut 200 acres owned by the town of Cheshire, which is the D. Dominicus property. And in conjunction with the town of Cheshire purchasing this property, there's also a partnership with the Land Trust, that the Land Trust is seeking a grant through the Audubon Society and Army Corps of Engineers. So this property, while it could be owned by the town of Cheshire, it will have conservation restrictions from the Army Corps of Engineers, as well as state of Connecticut if the grant is approved, as well as Regional Water Authority, who are also chipping in.
It all sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have a good idea what to put down. Are you going to write something in conjunction with Charles, Suzanne?
Yes, I will.
Sounds great to me.
Okay.
I don't think we need a motion. We just carry
general
on.
consent, I think. Mhm.
Okay. So number 2 is a request for determination for 1540 Notch Road for an above-ground pool and deck. Third is a staff communication regarding the unfinished business application for Jarvis Street Site Plan House. Fourth is a staff communication for a new proposal for a single-family house on Coleman Road. Fifth, engineering comments for a new application for 114 units on Hazel Drive. These are comments from the engineering department. Communication number 6 is a staff communication for the same, and number 7 is a request for determination 569 Cornwall Avenue. And that is it for communications.
I think at this time, is this the best time to allow the other participants to join the meeting?
Yes, and Mr. Norback, I see, is now joining. Okay, and Mr. Chairman, a recommendation I have when we let the other people in, if perhaps we make an announcement to ask them that if they are not at that point in the agenda where they're discussing their proposal, that they put their phones on mute. That would keep the background noise to a minimum.
Sounds great.
So I will
Hi,
admit
Tom.
everyone now.
Hi,
Hey, Tom.
hi, gang.
Gang's all here.
Yes.
Is the meeting underway?
Yes, we did start the meeting already. We are at unfinished business and we're about to hear the permit application of Timothy McMurray, Jarvis Street.
Okay,
So
I had
we're
a hell of a
just waiting.
time getting in, by the way.
Hello, Tim McMurray here.
Oh, hello.
Hi there.
Okay, very good.
So we did the site visit on Jarvis Street, and it was recommended that I go back to Cole and get a soil scientist and redo the soil map, which I did, and I provided copies of that revised layout in Cole now. So the wetlands.
Yes,
were
we have those
now-
copies.
Okay.
Now, a question that I had about the site plan, it shows where wetland flags are located, but the map makes reference to a 2002 delineation that was done. Do you know if they went out into the field and field located the extent of wetlands?
They did.
They did, okay. And are the wetlands currently flagged?
They are. And the
Okay.
house was staked as well.
Okay, excellent.
Access is a little less easy than it was the last time we were there, however.
Yes, with the growth of plants now, yes.
I have a question concerning the contours on the plot plan that I received. There seems to be a duplication here immediately east of the house where they're showing the proposed fill contours. There are two contours labeled 140 elevation. So it's going 138, then 140, then 140 again, and then 142. Somehow there's a duplication. I'm not sure just whether something's mislabeled, whether it should be 140, 142, and 144, or what has gone wrong there.
I see what you mean, Charles.
I think, is that 140, is that existing, or is that because of that gabion barrier that's being put in there?
It's the heavier line which indicates that it is a proposed contour. Swing around to the other side of the building, is a little less clear what's going on, but the same problem seems to hold that we've got an extra 140 contour in there.
Could it be a swale?
If it were a swale, there'd be a problem because if you count up, you know, a contour line's got to be higher on one side than the other. So you got 138, then you cross the 140, which means you're higher than 140. You come to another 140, you cross it, you got to be going down, but the next contour is 142. So you're going up.
The crawl is at one. First, I'm sorry. The fellow that was just talking, is he the engineer?
No, he is Tim McMurray, the applicant.
All right. So if the first floor is 145,
Yeah, crawl space is 141.25.
right, so that to me makes sense, especially with the garage being 143.5, then to have that contour be 142 makes sense.
Yeah,
And the 140 makes sense because it's being sloped away.
yeah,
And the extra 140,
doesn't make sense.
well, except that it's, if they're doing, I know it's an odd way to do it, but you could make the argument that it's, if they're doing it in, I don't know if this is 2 foot increments.
It won't work, Tom. I taught this stuff for 45 years. It won't work.
I'm looking for clarification, Charles, not confrontation. 140, 140.
So Charles, in your opinion, is this something that you think is,
And the final
an error?
approval will have to have that corrected, that's all. Because
Okay.
if someone's gonna go in there and do some grading and try to use this map to figure out the grading, they'll have an impossibility.
okay,
It just jumped out at me because of the fact I dealt with these for so many years.
yes.
So what's your pleasure? Do you think we need a public hearing on this, or can we
No.
have a meeting with the engineer so he can explain these drawings and contour lines?
It would seem to Charles' point that if indeed it's impossible to accomplish, and it's probably more than likely I don't want to, for lack of a better term, a clerical error, I think in the field, it would just be graded from that 142 down to the 138 then, Charles, is what you're saying?
Yeah, there's,
Away from the structure.
somehow in there, if it's got to be reconciled for whoever's going to work with it there. And if they have the high point near the house, I don't know, Tom, do you think the one near the house should have been 144 instead of 142 and they did it that way, or?
Not really, because it kind of works with the garage. The 140 pretty much works with the garage.
Yeah, well, they've got an extra 140 in there then.
Charles,
You
would
don't
it be
think it's
helpful
just
if I put
saying that
this?
it's consistently 140 for that number of feet?
Yeah, did you want to put it online, Suzanne? Did you able to do
Yes,
that? Or?
I can put that up there, yes.
And again, Charles, I'm just looking for clarification here because it sadly, it almost makes sense to me that it's like this. Or while it looks like an error, it also looks like it might be just illustrating that the 140 runs for a while and they just threw it in there. But I don't know. There it is.
Can members see this okay?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yep. 140, 140. 138 is here.
You don't have your little pointer thing?
So we
if
have the
we're-
140
Oh, there you go. Thank you.
and 140.
Ah,
where's the
okay.
138?
Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
if you carry them to where they join existing contours, it looks like one of them joins the existing 140 and the other 140 joins the existing 142.
So that is going to have to be a clarification from
Yeah,
the
right.
person that designed the site plan.
Yeah, it doesn't affect the overall in that when they finally go out there and do that, they're going to have to, you know,
Yeah, they just have to make it work with a bulldozer or a tractor anyway. It still has to go from point A to point B, and they have to have whether the topos are named or not, the water needs to flow the way they want the
Yeah.
water to flow.
So other than that, of course, our major concern from the beginning has been that this house is awfully close to the wetlands on the eastern side there. And there are erosion controls being proposed here. The thing that worries me as much as anything else is we've seen sites like this where it looks fine on paper, and then on the site itself, we start running into problems. I think some of you have memory enough to remember some of these other sites like that where you're putting fill in fairly close to an actual wetland, as is happening near at least the front of the house there. So I'm not necessarily opposed to what's being proposed here. I just want to make absolutely certain that we've got the proper both protection and inspection on this going in.
On another issue, did you determine whether easement, a conservation easement was established, or is that something that was not?
In looking at the land records, I did not find any conservation easement that was created and recorded on the land records. It was mentioned in the 2002 approval. It was a stipulation of that approval, but since that site was not developed, I believe that there was no reason to institute that easement.
Sure.
And as I noted in my staff report, there's a question as to what is the value of having a conservation easement on private property such as this when you have a large wetland area that is self-regulating, in that it would be very difficult to try to construct anything or do anything with that land. From the staff perspective, I don't believe that having a conservation easement on this private property would gain any further protections of that wetland area, but it may be more responsibility on the town
And
enforcing.
that's what we
and-
learned at our seminar, the annual meeting we went to last time. People were very much
Yes.
opposed to these easements. I was surprised about that, but there were a lot of good reasons.
I note that the silt barrier on the eastern side says is proposed Gabion silt barrier. Now, Gabions themselves, if left in place, can act as a very good, both as a barrier and a good delimiter of a no-go zone there, because Gabions usually are rock-filled baskets of some sort, and eventually, if left to themselves, vegetate and form a nice barrier.
And do we have I think you said in your staff report that we would be helpful to have, know how much of the upland area is proposed to be permanently disturbed. Do we have that information?
I did not see that calculation on the site plan.
I do
So-
neither.
So that would be something that would be helpful.
That brings up another point, by the way. As I mentioned, it says Gabion silt barrier, but then the illustration showing a sedimentation barrier detail shows a completely different kind of silt barrier.
Well, that's funny, because that's what I was, when you started explaining about the gabion, I've been sitting here
Yeah, there's
fumbling
no
with this thing,
detail.
looking for a description of the gabion barrier, and I couldn't find one, and
It's
then
not
I looked
there.
up and saw exactly what you're talking about.
Wait a minute. They got different kinds of silt barriers here illustrated, but none of them are the gabion type.
That's.
So we have another defect that needs to be straightened out in terms of the plan of a discrepancy there.
It all sounds to me like the engineer needs to do some work and come back to the next meeting and answer these questions and explain what's going to happen before he can make a decision.
I think we need an environmental assessment also.
Now,
don't we?
Mr. Chairman, there's, if the commission would like one, the commission can request it. If I could just clarify where we're at with the time frame. This application was received in January. And at that time, the commission had asked for additional information, which we now are viewing. With the state being put on hold for as long as it was, an executive order came out that added 90 days to the mandatory action date. So when I do all of the math of those 90 days and the 30 days that the applicant has left on his total 65 to add an extension, there's only 30 days left. So if the commission was to go through with just looking at what the state allows, the commission would have to take action at the next meeting, June 16th. If the applicant would like to use his remaining days on this application, that could stretch it out to July 7th. But that would be the absolute deadline that the commission would have to take action on this, or for the applicant to withdraw. Those would be the two options, but
That's fine. All that considered, it doesn't change the fact that there's inconsistencies on the plan, and we need them to be consistent, if not explained. So
yes.
time, like they say, timing's everything, but we can't just consider the timing. We have to consider the plan, methinks.
Right, I'm just letting you know that, that this is where we're at. So Tim, if you wanted to grant additional time, then that would mean that the commission would be allowed to make their final decision on July 7th. Without your granting that, the commission is required by law to make a decision at the next meeting on June 16th.
Okay, so it sounds like I have to get some answers from Cole and potentially do some more work. We need you want the definition of the gabion barrier? I'm not sure if that was on the original Matson plan. I'm not sure if this 140 was also on the original Matson plan, but I'll check that and I'll get back to Cole with these questions.
Okay.
But I probably will need the extension to July 7th.
Yeah,
Okay.
I do recommend on that east side where it does say a gabion silt barrier, that is a very good idea to put one in that location. There are ordinary silt barriers on the other sides are no problem at all. But where you've got the additional danger, as I mentioned, of the place most likely to have something go wrong. And I think what needs to do as much as anything else is just put a detail on there on the map. He's already detailed the other kinds of silt barriers.
Okay, and then the 140, the 142, is that it?
It should be reconciled one way or another.
And then also, Tim, you're trying to establish your non-encroachment area. So you're showing your limit of disturbance. So where the gabion silt fence is proposed and where you have the hay bales and the silt fence in the west corner of the property.
Right.
It should also identify non-encroachment markers. So we sell markers that usually get installed on a 4x4 post. And when this map is redone, they should show where those markers are going to be. We usually ask that it be placed every 50 feet or so, but you and I can talk after tonight's meeting and narrow all of that down. But that's something that should be shown on the plans.
Okay.
Okay, we're set. We have the extension.
Yep.
And we can continue the discussion next meeting?
Yes, we have the extension to July 7th. And then, Tim, we can coordinate tomorrow and have a further conversation and just go over what happened tonight and clarify what would be needed to show the commission for the next meeting, if you'd
Okay.
like.
Perfect. Sounds good.
Okay, everybody's clear, all set?
Yes, thank you.
We'll do it again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We can go on to new business now?
Yes, new business. So the first
Request for
item of new,
determination, and take over, please, Suzanne.
okay, this is a request for determination from John and Beth Dodona at 1540 Notch Road for an above-ground pool and extension of their deck. In the staff report, I identified to the commission that, I'm sorry, just switch my papers around here. That this house was constructed prior to the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses regulations being adopted. Therefore, there was no requirement for the establishment of a non-encroachment area on the property. According to the map, which I can put up on the screen now. Okay, this shows the soils map. Can everyone see this?
Yes.
Yep.
Is it on the screen? Okay. This hatched area shows the Oakland review area. The house, as I stated, was already existing. And what the requester is planning on doing is installing an above-ground pool and expanding the existing deck that's on the property. They did submit a request for determination letter along with a photo. And I do see that at tonight's meeting is a representative from 1540 Notch Road. Hello, are you there?
Yes.
Is someone in attendance to represent 1540 Notch Road?
Yes, I'm here. That was me.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
So did you want to give a little bit more background onto your request letter and what it is that you're planning on doing?
You need to give his name for the record.
John Dodona.
Mhm.
And basically looking to install a 28-foot round pool directly behind our house.
And this is in a currently established lawn area, correct?
Correct.
Now, looking at the air photo, which I was earlier, your garage already heads towards the wetland past where you proposed the deck anyway, does it not?
Yes.
Mhm.
Can I ask how far the proposed area for the pool is away from the grassed area? In other words, when the pool's installed, how much grass is remaining towards the wooded area?
It actually goes towards the water line, and it's going to be, depending on exactly where they put the pool, anywhere from, I believe, 22 to 28 feet.
Thank you.
And how far is, do you have a measurement of where the wetland line is? How far from your proposed pool to the actual wetland line would that be?
I'm not exactly sure. In that picture there's a shed that's directly behind my garage, which is right in front of the line.
This shed, the one to the left or the one to the right?
Well, the one to the right is actually the playscape, so the pool should fall just in front of that.
Okay, so you're planning on the pool in this area?
Correct.
Closer to the house and the garage or closer to the playscape?
It's pretty much almost right in the middle. Roughly maybe half the distance of the playscape heading towards that line, that wetlands line. So just before it. And if I was to take a rough guess, it might be 5-6 feet from that line.
From this line?
Correct.
It's still entirely within the grass, with the present grassed area. Mhm.
Yes.
As long as it falls within the grassed area, I have no problem personally with it, but I'll just put that out there.
I'll hitch my horse to that wagon.
Yeah, I think that's good. It'd be nice just to have a drawing, so he sticks to it and we all know what's gonna happen, but on the grass area should not be a problem.
Well, considering how long the house has been there, the house and yard have already had some effect on the existing wetland, and everything's come into some sort of a balance. As long as nothing's going to go on that could further disturb the wetland from whatever it has historically had, I don't see there's going to be a problem either.
Is there a
So-
motion to declare it insignificant in regard to the wetlands requirements?
Yeah, I will so move that the proposed activities are insignificant in terms of this disturbance of wetland environment and therefore would not require a permit under our regulations.
I'll second that.
And moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried by those commission members present.
Thank you, everyone.
On to the next item of new business.
Okay, so you're
Suzanne?
all set as far as this is concerned for 1540 Notch Road. You'll just need to fill out a zoning permit. And that'll get processed through our office and I'll be able to indicate that a wetlands permit is not needed.
Yeah, we did already last week.
He was waiting on the wetlands decision.
Yeah,
Okay, all right, then I'll follow up with Mike and we'll get that processed.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay? Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you, everybody. Stay safe.
Thank you too.
Okay, Suzanne,
Okay,
item number 2.
Yes, the second item under new business is a new application for a site plan home and grading on Coleman Road. And representing this application is Dennis McMurrow, who is on our screen.
Good
Hello,
evening.
Dennis.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm great, thanks. Want me to give a quick presentation?
Yes, please.
Okay. Suzanne, did the commission get PDFs of the maps that we submitted?
Yes, they did, and I can also put copies up on the screen if you would like.
Okay. I'm going to be focused primarily on the one that I called the presentation plan that I put the colors on.
Okay,
That's probably what I'll be what I focus on is the colored map. Good evening, Dennis McMorrow, Berkshire Engineering and Surveying, representing Bart and Catherine Brala. They purchased lot 1B, which was the Napolitano Dietrich subdivision that I brought before your commission. It was a 2-lot subdivision or re-subdivision of lot 1, Coleman Road, and lot 1B is a 3.89 acre parcel. And that is,
and
there's
Dennis, just to show them, this is the plan that, so this is what you're,
the property to the right on that map is lot 1B, where Suzanne has the pointer moving. That was the site plan that we brought before your commission back, I believe our final meeting was January of this year when it was approved. And we have the driveway coming in on this site plan on the north side of the house. And that driveway is a steeper driveway at 10% grade going back down to the garage. That was selected due for sightline reasons on Coleman Road. Coleman Road is very straight, but it has a vertical curve on the road, which it was actually tricky to find a driveway location. And so we presented this to the commission. It's a 14-foot fill slope off of the end of the driveway down to the edge of the wetlands on this plan. During the approval process, we added stabilization fabric and details to the plan, and that you ultimately approved this plan. The Growlers purchased Lot 1B from Napolitano Dietrich, and they're looking to construct a house for themselves and live there. And the goal for this new plan is to get a little bit of a backyard. On the previous plan that we just moved away from, there's really no backyard. Everything's to the side. So what we looked at was, could we find another driveway location that we could meet the sight lines that the traffic authority would want for Coleman Road? And we did find that, and the driveway is about 300 feet to the south of the property. So we're looking at that site plan. So the driveway is now coming in from the south side. It's a much flatter driveway. We have a maximum slope of about 2% on this driveway versus the 10%. The trade-off is it's about twice as long as the other driveway, 140 feet versus this 300 feet. But it does a couple of things that are positive. One, it meets the sightline criteria. I did have a discussion with traffic. Two, we only have an 8-foot high fill slope going down to the wetlands instead of a 14-foot high fill slope. So we've almost cut the depth in half. Part of it by the turnaround is a 1-to-1 rock slope, and I'll get into that in a minute with that. But we're still only an 8-foot high slope, whether it's 2-to-1 with fabric or 1-to-1 with the stone face on it. We couldn't. Go ahead. You have a question? Nope. Okay. So Suzanne, if you could flip to the presentation plan, the one with the colors on it, that right there. What I've done is I've highlighted in orange the original approved non-encroachment line that was from the Napolitano Dietrich plan. And what I've done is I've cross-hatched the areas that we have additional non-encroachment, and it's highlighted with a purple border. So if you can see the orange cross-hatching on there, those are a little corner by the driveway turnaround, and on the south end of the driveway, I just couldn't get the driveway to, you need a certain turning radius, 40-foot center line radius to allow vehicles and emergency vehicles into the driveway. So I had to keep it where it is. That's open meadow there. It's not woods. We're not cutting trees for any of this. That the additional impact is only 2,400 square feet in there. We couldn't lower the house anymore because the driveway would have to lower, and I would start to have a cut below the septic system, which is in the middle of the property up by the road, and we didn't want to do that. So we've balanced a lot of different factors on the property, and the net result is we do have a little bit of a backyard. The Growlers have a hope for possibly a future pool location, which we show behind the house in that area. And so, they're just trying to create a little family area that they can enjoy with their children in that area. The rock slope, we have added a rock slope or riprap slope detail to the plans. We're going to be using filter fabric underneath the stone to keep the soil from piping through. And we will also key or toe in at the base of the slope, the stone, as shown on the detail. And the riprap slope will actually be a very good permanent erosion control on that one-to-one slope in that area. And I think the trade-off for the longer but flatter driveway is you get the flatter, the 8-foot slope uphill of the wetlands versus a 14-foot fill embankment above the wetlands in that area. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that the commission might have.
That riprap, that's modified riprap?
Correct.
What size range is that, just to refresh my memory?
Modified riprap as it's graded up to a 12-inch stone.
Okay, is it going to be placed riprap or dumped riprap?
Well, generally it gets they'll place it from, you'll dig the keyway in the bottom and the toe, and they'll place it with an excavator from the top.
Uh-huh.
So it will be placed via the bucket. 8 foot is not a large slope in there. The machine can sit right at the turnaround area and put the riprap in place, and then grade it off into the toe and shape it from the surface.
And it'd be filter fabric under the riprap, right?
Yes, the stabilization fabric underneath the riprap so the soil particles, when groundwater washes through, it's not washing out through the voids of the stone.
Now, is that fabric being placed on native soil? You're going to put a thin sand layer down before you put the fabric?
Well, if the native soil is not full of rocks, it's fine. If it is stony, it's a good idea to have a little sand pad on there. Some people will use a sand pad in lieu of the fabric. The stabilization fabric is pretty tough that they're putting down. It's not a thin filter fabric like on top of a septic or anything like that.
Okay. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of different details in terms of just what they do along that line, just checking on it. Sounds good to me. Certainly an improvement over the first plan in terms of the overall.
And knowing the property.
The drawback is a longer driveway.
Yeah.
But flatter.
Tom, you had something to say?
No, I've been stumbling along with it, but I have no problem with it.
Yeah.
Now, Dennis, when we had conversation, you had discussed that the clearing of the back area would be done in conjunction with the installing of the fabric and the riprap.
The clearing?
That when you grade that rear area for the one-to-one slope, that simultaneously you plan to stabilize it so that it won't be left.
Once that one-to-one slope is formed, because with the, after the foundation is in and they start doing the rough grading around the house, once that one-to-one slope and even that 2-to-1 slope that we're going to put the fabric in seed, those two slopes, since they're in the back and out of the way of construction, both of those, the 2-to-1 and the 1-to-1, should both be stabilized permanently, not waiting till the end of the project.
Now, Dennis, if I could just move back to the proposed plan, I just have a question about, it shows these non-encroachment markers as bisecting the driveway. They seem to be remnants from what was approved previously.
Those are the actual non-encroachment markers that were approved from the subdivision, and that we actually went out and staked them, and I think they might have even been put up. So they would have to be taken down and moved to the new location that we're showing.
Okay, because certainly to install it here wouldn't make sense, because then that would require that this little area be kept in its natural vegetative state. That wouldn't make sense,
I
but
know
I
that-
understand. So this was to clarify where it used to be.
Right, and we even labeled that purple line there, additional non-encroachment area. And so I probably should have said to remove the old one and move them to the new location.
Okay.
I know we staked those for Andy Napolitano. I don't know if he actually put those posts and markers up before he sold the property, or, and if, obviously, if they are, they're gonna have to be moved to the new location because we got a driveway going to it.
If we have approved this, does that mean we're approving the pool? Is that part of this application or this? Because there's a possible pool back there.
Well, they are showing it, and they are establishing that the non-encroachment line would be here at the toe of the slope. So
Okay.
that this technically touches within the upland review area, so that's why they're showing it. So yes, an approval granted for this proposed dwelling would also then cover the pool.
Thank you.
And on a side note too, the original site plan, the deck was 30 feet away from the wetlands, and the corner of the house was 41 feet. And on this plan, we're farther away. The deck is 41 feet versus the 30 feet. And the corner of the garage is 46 feet versus the 41 feet. So the house is slightly farther away from the wetlands, in addition to the 8-foot fill versus the 14-foot fill.
Are there any further questions or comments?
No,
Do we have enough information?
I think I'm comfortable with it.
Okay, so then should I
Good.
prepare a draft for the next meeting?
I would say so. There's no recommendation for a hearing or further information. I think we're ready to go with the proposal, Suzanne.
Okay, very good.
I would agree. I have no objections.
Thank you. Okay,
All set?
All set.
I believe so. Okay, thank
Okay.
you, Dennis.
Thank you. I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Item number 3 is a permit application from Lamp Realty.
Yes. This is a proposal located on Hazel Drive. It's a site plan for 2 residential buildings totaling 114 units. And members may recall that there is a development already on the site, and this plan would call to demolish that plan and rebuild in the same general area. And representing the applicant tonight, we have attorney Joe Williams, and engineer Ryan McAvoy, and I believe that the representative for the owner is also in our meeting tonight. So I guess I would hand it over to Ryan or Joe, whoever is going to give the introduction.
Thank you, Suzanne, and thank you, Mr. Chairman and commission members. Good evening. My name is Joe Williams. I'm a land use and environmental attorney with Shipman and Goodwin, offices in New Haven and Hartford. And we are excited to bring before you this evening what we think is an attractive redevelopment of this property that will improve not only the appearance and the use of the site, but its environmental performance as well. I'm just going to give you a brief overview, and then Ryan McAvoy, our lead civil engineer with Mylona McBroom, will take you through the regulated activities and the stormwater management plan. And as Suzanne mentioned, we also have with us here in the meeting, Tony Nazardo, who is the principal of Lamp Realty LLC, which is the property owner and the applicant. The reason I said, just to go directly to the issues of focus before you, the reason I said we believe that the development proposed this evening will improve the environmental performance of the site is that what you have on the site are two, as I think you know from prior proposals, two aging, dilapidated, abandoned convalescent home buildings and a large overgrown parking area with no stormwater treatment measures whatsoever in place today, which we will replace the two buildings with two new apartment buildings, a parking area, extensive landscaping plan, and a state-of-the-art stormwater management plan. As Ryan will show you, our plan pulls portions of the existing buildings out of the upland review area, pulls some of the existing paving, the asphalt paving out of the upland review area. The main part of our regulated activities really is to put in stormwater quality basins, partially within the regulated area, which are intended to, and we believe will, actually greatly improve the quality of stormwater discharging from the site into the pond, Larson's Pond, that's in the southeast corner of the property. There are no direct impacts in our plan to wetlands or watercourses. It's a large property, 22 acres, a beautiful property with a fairly sizable area of pond, watercourse, and wetlands, all of which are undisturbed and will remain undisturbed. And we are simply sort of infill redeveloping the portion of the property that has already been heavily disturbed in the past by the development and the operation of the convalescent. So with all of that, we believe, we submit to you that our proposal will greatly improve conditions, environmental and wetlands conditions over the existing situation, will create no adverse impacts to wetlands or watercourses. And so we will ask you to hopefully approve our permit and to find that there is no significant impact activity. With that overview, Mr. Chairman, unless there is a question for me, I'd like to go directly to Ryan to walk you through the regulated activities and the stormwater management plan.
Thank you, Attorney Williams. For the record, my name is Ryan McAvoy. I'm a licensed professional engineer with Mylona McBroom. And just going to expand on a couple of the items that Attorney Williams brought to your attention, namely the property itself with the address 50 Hazel Drive has primary frontage along Hazel Drive, but it does extend in a fairly irregular shape with frontage also on Larson Avenue and Lakeview Avenue on the opposite side of the pond towards the ramps for I-84.
Ryan, would you like me to put plans up as you're speaking?
It probably couldn't hurt, if you don't mind. So if you can scroll to the second sheet, Suzanne.
Okay.
So the property, as I mentioned, is very irregular in shape. The primary frontage is on Hazel Drive, which is at the top of your map. Secondary frontages to the east or the bottom side of your sheet on Larson Avenue and Lakeview Avenue. And the property is bifurcated from north to south or from right to left on this map by a watercourse wetland system that drains towards Larson's Pond, which is located on the left side of this particular sheet in the south central portion of the site. The eastern side of the property, there are some wetland fingers, there are some disturbed areas associated with historical septic system leaching fields. And our application is not focused on that particular part of the property. We are, all of our activities, all our site plan activities, all our proposed improvements are focused on the west side of the property or the top on this particular map. What you see on the area between Hazel Drive and the pond are the remnants of what's left over from the old convalescent home on the site. There are two 3-story buildings in that location. There used to be several hundred patients and staff working on the site, fairly large parking area, 2 driveways, and activities and filling that went in some cases right up to the edge of the pond. There's also a town drainage discharge from storm drainage on Hazel Drive that is located just to the right of the, I suppose, the relic of the old buildings. that discharges into a swale that leads directly into the wetlands and then to the pond. And further to the right or to the north is the remnants of an old leaching field. This site was served by septic systems until 1993 when it was converted to public sewers. The property does have some fairly significant grades in some areas. The slopes range from moderate to steep, with the highest elevation located along Hazel Drive of 585 down to the pond at approximately 520. The reason why you see a long sort of serpentine driveway coming from Hazel Drive is because the site is trying to overcome some of those slopes as you go from west to east or from top to bottom on this map. The parking areas, buildings, all impervious areas from the site itself generally drain directly to the wetlands absent any formal stormwater management system or water quality enhancements. They just essentially sheet flow into the wetland, and in some cases they're as close as 15 to 20 feet from the pond or the wetland associated with the pond. This property, jumping around a little bit here, but this property was subject to a site plan in 2005 that was approved by this commission that included improvements in wetland delineation as part of the permit application that we submitted to you. We have upgraded wetland delineation to this year. Matt Sanford reviewed the historical delineation by Bill Root and confirmed that the wetlands are still more or less in the same location. In terms of our proposed plan, Suzanne, if you could scroll to the next sheet, please. One more. So what we propose with this site plan is a multifamily residential development. You have two buildings of apartment units. Each building will have 57 units. We will be constructing new parking, new access for these buildings off of Hazel Drive to improve sightline conditions from what is there currently. The buildings will have parking in the lower level and studio, single family, and two family units on upper floors. The site plan, elements of the site plan that I kind of want to focus on for the purposes of this application are the activities as you approach the wetlands and the pond itself. Namely that we will be demolishing the asphalt parking areas that are in close proximity to the wetlands, moving them further away, and also improving the vegetative buffer to the wetlands itself. As you can see with this particular plan, we do have a dashed line that mirrors or that is offset from the wetlands themselves, showing the activities within the upland review area. And there are very few areas of proposed pavement that will fall within this upland review area. So we'll be pulling back quite a bit of the impervious surface in the vicinity of the wetlands. Can you please scroll to the next sheet, Suzanne? Let's jump to the grading, which is the following sheet. There we go. So this is the grading and utility plan. One significant improvement that we're making with this plan compared to current conditions are the introduction of stormwater quality and stormwater management features on the site. Namely that all drainage from impervious surfaces, including parking, buildings, and other landscaped areas upland, will be captured in a conventional pipe and catch basin system and conveyed to two separate stormwater management basins. The first of which is located in between the two buildings, just upgrading of the pond along a wetland edge. The second is further to the right on the sheet or to the north, to the rear of the northerly of the two buildings. These basins will include at the lower levels of the basin water quality volume, which will detain and hold back the first inch of runoff, which includes the vast majority of your pollutants, your sediment load, things of that nature. Each basin will have a sediment forebay where coarse sediments can be trapped in the first essentially quarter of the basin to allow for more easy maintenance. The basins will both have a CDS unit, which is a proprietary swirl technology chamber that further helps to trap floatables and sediments prior to discharge into the basin. And I think, very importantly, with the discharge of these basins, we are routing them through what we call a level spreader, which is a series of concrete galleries embedded into the grade, where the lowest or the highest level of the orifices on the concrete leaching galleries will be exposed to grade, and stormwater allowed to flow in an even slow velocity manner prior to entering into the wetlands to reduce or eliminate any erosive qualities to the velocity of the stormwater. An important thing to note is that we are also improving the water quality that comes off of the town road. As I mentioned earlier, the town road simply discharges to a swale that it runs directly into the wetlands. And we are introducing a sediment chamber, which is perhaps more the preferred method for town drainage that the Public Works Department wishes to utilize, as opposed to the CDS units that I spoke of with on-site drainage. We're introducing the sediment chamber to pick up coarse sediments coming off the town road, and then also discharging the town drainage into its own separate level spreader discharge. So again, that'll provide the same level of velocity reduction at the point discharge, rather as opposed to a point discharge. So all three discharges will be at relatively slow velocity, relatively spread out to reduce erosion. Each basin will incorporate water quality volume, all designed in accordance with the 2004 DEP Water Quality Manual. They'll have primary treatment in the form of sediment chambers and or CDS units. And we are also introducing vegetation and some site amenity in the form of a stone dust path along the separating the parking lots and the wetlands themselves. So we certainly feel that with reducing the footprint of the impervious surface within the upland review area, introducing stormwater management features that don't exist today, and providing for water quality treatments to current discharges will ultimately result in enhancement to the water quality leaving the site. We do have a detailed sediment erosion control plan that accompanies our proposed conditions with 3 locations of level spreader, temporary sediment traps, where stormwater runoff under construction will be first directed into these sediment traps, and the whole limit of construction will be ringed with silt fence hay bales, and also based on recent comments from the town engineer, orange construction fence to aid in the visibility of those features. We also have recently performed test pits on site based on comments obtained from the engineering department to determine what the soil conditions are in the area of the basins. As a conservative approach to the design of the basins, we presumed that there would be limited opportunity for infiltration because of the depth at which we're installing the basins compared to nearby wetlands. The bottom of the basins are going to be close to or above the elevation of the wetlands. So we expected that we would have a groundwater condition that would limit the opportunity for infiltration. Our test pits sort of confirm that more or less, with groundwater encountered in the central basin, about 1 foot to 1.5 foot below the bottom of the basin, and roughly at the same elevation of the northerly basin. So we do expect that these basins will have moisture at times in the bottom of the basin, and we have selected an appropriate seeding mixture that will be tolerant of moist conditions or dry conditions as the seasons dictate. And we are not relying on infiltration to provide volume in the basins. We have dewatering pipes and low flow orifices incorporated into the design so that the available storage for both water quality and for stormwater detention will be available at the time of a large rainstorm. So that is the sort of the quick and dirty presentation. I believe that the improvements that we're making are ultimately going to help to protect the resource, which is the pond and the wetlands, and certainly would be an improvement over current conditions. So if there's any questions from the commission, I'd be happy to answer them.
One clarification. I know you say you're connected now to town sewer. It's also town water?
It's connected to regional water authority, public water.
Because that was a problem originally. They had on-site wells because they couldn't connect to a town water there. So
Yeah, in reviewing the Chespercott file, it appears that there was significant septic issues in the 80s as well, which in part I'm sure is why they connected into sanitary sewer in the 90s. So we are serving these buildings with public water and public sewer. We did obtain feasibility approval from the WPCA for connection to the sewer, and we also have a letter confirming that water service is available for the project.
now the existing water wells on the property, which were abandoned when they connected to town water, have those been properly abandoned, sealed, or whatever?
I'm not familiar with the abandonment procedure of those wells. I believe they're primarily located on the other side of the property.
Some of them to the south side of the property. I watched them put them in.
Okay.
I don't know. Those were new wells because the old supply wasn't adequate. And that might have been in the 80s when they did that.
Well, I know they've been on public water for, well, the old convalescent was on public water beginning, I believe, in the early 90s.
Yeah.
So I'm not familiar with how those wells may have
They were putting in wells in the 80s because they didn't have adequate supply, and then later they finally were able to connect to public water. Now, you're regrading there. Is any of that, I'm trying to see if we got where you're regrading, whether we've got erosion controls in place or just what?
Suzanne, would you be able to scroll to the next sheet, please?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So this is our sediment erosion control plan where we show at the toe of all improvements and or removals, as the case is appropriate, silt fence, hay bales along the entire perimeter of activity. We also include 3 temporary sediment traps located in southerly, northerly, and central to the site where diversion swales will be put in place to direct any accumulated runoff to these sediment traps where sediment will be allowed to be stored, infiltrated before discharging off into the towards the wetlands. These sediment basins will have to be maintained and cleaned when sediment reaches a foot deep in the structures, but we do have design elevations and dimensions for the construction of those sediment traps.
Any other questions of Mr. McAvoy?
What is the end use of this proposed building? Is it still going to be an elderly home, or is this, I'm sorry, maybe I missed this in the whole thing.
It's going to be apartments.
Apartments. Any age restrictions or anything?
And Mr. Chairman, one thing that I just wanted to add, that I did check the natural diversity database, and this area does not register any known species on the database. So there's no need for natural diversity database measures here.
We still have 44,320 square feet of disturbance in the upland review area. Is that correct?
Yes, there is. That is the sum of the activities within the upland review area. That consists of installation of the stormwater basins primarily. There will be some parking areas that will be within it, but I'd say 80% or more of the activity within the upland review area is associated with the stormwater quality detention improvements.
Charles, I will lean on you for your expertise on this, but that seems like a sizable amount of square footage to entertain a permit without a public hearing. Your thoughts?
I've been trying to mull that one over, and it's right on the edge as far as I'm concerned. It's not enough to make me want to have a public hearing. I'm just wondering, any project this size, we've normally had a public hearing just in case, but so I'm teetering right on the edge. I hate not to give you a definitive answer on this. I could be swayed either way.
Isn't there a public interest? Is there a public interest in 10.2? I can't remember. You know,
Yeah, the public interest is certainly a reason to do it. Problem is, we've been cut off with this coronavirus, so I haven't had any input from the public.
I personally have had some input on this, and I think that might be in our best interest.
Yeah. But, we're probably safer having a public hearing because we got less slack in the long run by having it. Even if nobody has any concerns of not having it, and have someone raise a fuss afterwards. It's certainly a huge project compared to our backyard swimming pool ones.
right. And given the disturbance to the upland review area, that's,
Pretty sizable.
yeah. I guess when you're on the fence, it probably makes sense to have a hearing.
Yeah, I would agree.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, one thing I would just like to clarify.
Yes.
Usually, we use the Cheshire Herald to post the notices for a public hearing. The Cheshire Herald was purchased by the Record Journal, and their deadline to submit information for notices has changed. So if we were to go with the Cheshire Herald, we would not be able to get the notice in order for the next meeting. It would have to be the first meeting in July. However, I did confirm today that there is an executive order that allows, during this COVID-19 issue, that the town can put notice on the website and forego submitting to newspapers. So if the commission was inclined and wanted to have the public hearing at the next meeting of June 16th, we would be able to accommodate that if we posted the notice on the town website.
I think that'd be a great idea.
Yeah.
And maybe another newspaper.
Can I add to that? I mean, Cheshire Herald is unfortunately becoming dated. How do we go about like ensuring that public notices go electronically, like the Cheshire Patch, which I know is sometimes, I don't want to say politicized, but advertised, but some other mainstream media type publications, if you will.
I'm not
Well,
sure
if the commission wanted to go with the mainstream media, what's required under the state statute is that it be a newspaper that has wide circulation in Cheshire. We sometimes use the Record Journal, but we try to use the Cheshire Herald most of the time since it's a local newspaper. The commission, if the commission wanted to post something in the paper, we could do it both ways, where we would comply with the primary executive order, putting the notice on the town website between 10 and 15 days before the public hearing, and then also posting it in the Cheshire Herald. But that would not get into the Herald probably until the June 11th. Yes, the June 11th one.
Well, let's go belt and suspenders then.
That's a good idea. The 11th of June, that's over the weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, let's do it both ways. That way
I agree. My 2 cents is the fact that the way the world is going, that and my discuss with the Cheshire Herald of late is just the town website is the #1 like public spot that people should be going to nowadays. because media is no longer, well, I should say the print is no longer what it was years ago as far as communicating with the public.
And Will, to add to that, you know, with everything that's going on, people I know are quarantining their mail. And so, you know, if it is just put in the newspaper, they may not get that notice until they take their mail into their house as opposed to quarantining it. So I think that that was part of the reasoning for the executive order to allow postings on websites.
Could not agree more.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay.
Okay, could there be a motion? If you
I
want to
move
call
that,
this to a public
one, we have a
hearing?
public hearing, and two, we put in notice in both the town website and the Cheshire Herald.
Charles, do we have to have regulations?
Is there a second to the motion first?
I'm sorry, Earl.
Discussion.
I'm sorry, Earl, but Charles, do we have to have like some type of regulation stipulations for that?
Oh, for the reason for having a public hearing?
Yes.
For public interest, purposes of public interest.
Okay, just wanted to state that for the record.
Yeah.
Thank you,
I'll
Will.
second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried by all commission members present.
Mr. Chairman, and thank you all, and we're happy to talk with you again about it. Could you confirm what date we're looking at for the hearing? Because we're just looking ahead to when our zoning hearing will be as well.
So the soonest that this would be able to be scheduled would be the meeting of Tuesday, June 16th. And if that date does not work for you, the next available meeting date would be Tuesday, July 7th.
I think we're okay for the 16th, Ryan and Tony.
Okay.
I would have to, Ted Hart would be filling in for me in the role on the 16th, which he's watching on YouTube right now, it should be, so shouldn't be a problem on our end.
Yeah. And you've already heard the authoritative statements of Mr. McAvoy, so we'll try to make do. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Item 4 on the agenda, request for determination regarding Ed Barnett.
Oh, boy.
Yes, and Mr. Barnett was just trying to get into the meeting, so if you could just give me 1 second here to see if he's still in the waiting room. I'm not seeing him in the waiting room. We do have Attorney Fazzone here to represent the request.
Can you hear me?
I can
Yes,
hear
we
you.
can.
Yes, we can.
We can.
Thank you.
And in my staff report, I indicate that this is a request for determination that was born out of the submission of an as-built survey. The as-built survey was provided in support of staff signing the certificate of occupancy, and as-built originally identified a deck. I had gone out to the site and do see that there's sliding glass doors with now what's being labeled on the as-built as a wood landing and some stairs. And because that is a deviation from the approval from the Wetlands Commission, I'm not able to sign off on this. And there was discussion with Mr. Barnett about that. And subsequently, Attorney Fazzone is now submitting a request for determination to see if a permit is needed for the change to the original permit. And Mr. Chairman, should I put up the map showing the original site plan and then the as-built?
Sure, that would be very nice. And
Okay.
either way, we have provisions to handle this, right? We're allowed permits after the fact, and it's structured, and we can also
And now-
decide if one is required.
And I did just see that Ed Barnett was in the waiting room. I have to clear this screen to go back. So let's try this again. Okay, so that shows that he's joining. And this, okay. So this was the site plan that was approved February 5th of 2019. It shows the house and the upland review area, which is this purple line. And this is the as-built that was provided May 27th. And it shows in the upland review area that there is a change to the plan.
Suzanne, can you go back to the first one?
Sure.
Thank you. So it looks more like, well, it looks to me like the original plan. It almost looks like it was just like a box that wasn't necessarily the house. You know, I mean, it's so nondescript other than the stoop. So I noticed there's quite a bit more detail in the as-built. House seems to have a little more character, jigs and jogs, if you will. And it looks like the deck is on that, as we look at the old site plan, it's on the right bottom side of it.
This is what's on the screen right now is the approved plan. So it did not locate any stairs. This is what was the approved site plan.
But what I'm getting at is that the approved site plan, and I'll tell you what, I can't see this with my, the approved site plan seems to have just a rectangular box, and the house seems to be a different shape. Is that true?
I think that is correct.
Yes.
All right, that
Yes,
said,
yes.
all right, well, there it is. So it almost looks like, shit, I mean, excuse me, it's hard to see without overlaying these what actually is different about it, because you know,
Well,
this isn't defined as a box.
Mr. Norbeck, if I think the box is certainly bigger than the ultimate footprint in the house, but I think the rear line of the box pretty much corresponds with the location in the as-built.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, and it seems like and it's hard to see. Well, like I say, I'm looking at a pretty darn small as-built here, but it looks like that landing and stairs is more or less within the footprint of the approved plan.
Let's go back and take a look at the first one. Now that we see where the landing and stairs are, it ought to be possible to.
Yeah, Tom, that makes sense.
So it's really not, to me, it doesn't look like it's doing.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like it's, while he may not have come specifically for a permit for that, if it is indeed part of the house, it also fits, to me, it appears, it fits within the box that we approved.
Within about 5 or 6 square feet, so I think it's close enough.
Yeah, it just doesn't.
But didn't we in the minutes require that they come back for that? The minutes
Well, I
that
think
Suzanne attached to.
I think part of that, the reason this is probably resonating with me a bit is that if I recall, I think Mr. Barnett was out of town at graduation, something, and his father-in-law, I think, came in.
Right.
And it looked, I think he was a little befuddled by some of the questions, and it looked like the permit was not going to be granted. And I think one of our learned commission members, a builder, suggested that he nix the deck on the plan to assure that the proposal that the proposed plan could go through. If I'm not, I vaguely remember I suggested that, which may have been
Tom,
out of
just
line.
to
but I
clarify a
think
little bit,
I may have done that.
Tom, just to clarify a little bit, in that discourse that happened was that they had already received their approval
All right.
from the commission, and then they submitted a zoning permit, and on the zoning permit, it showed the deck.
Oh, all right.
And I was not able to sign the zoning permit because it was different than the approved plan.
Okay.
That then was brought up during the proceedings of the cease and desist order that was issued for the site.
All
And
right.
that's when Mr. Siniscalco was made aware that he could not submit the zoning permit showing the deck unless he was to modify the plans. And that's what those minutes indicate, that he was going to
Okay.
modify the
Now
plan.
I remember. I knew it was something about getting rid of the deck, nixing it.
I think it should be pointed out, not being able to go through the files, but I believe the deck that was shown was 10 by 10. And I get that number because in the assessor's records, the house is assessed on the basis of having a 10-foot by 10-foot deck. But so I think Suzanne told me, or I don't know if it was Suzanne, but that the original as-built survey was submitted, and that labeled the 6x4 stoop as a deck.
Correct,
but-
yes.
Yeah, but it seems to me that in any event, and I know the history of all of this. I've had many applications on many nights when Mr. Barnett has been in front of me, his application taken up before mine. So I think I have a good, I think I have a good handle on the history, and I'm submitting to the commission that hopefully this can be looked at without the history in mind. It is extremely minimal in terms of the amount of disturbance. When I got a call about this from Mr. Barnett, I guess I knew that Suzanne had told him she would bring it to the commission's attention, and I filed the request for determination as the only way that I saw to hopefully get a commission's decision at this meeting. The house is sold. It's supposed to be closed within the next week or so. Obviously, it can't be sold or closed without a certificate of occupancy. And the only way that he could have gotten a certificate of occupancy without a stoop and stairs would have been somehow to board up that sliding glass door, which if I were buying the house, I wouldn't accept that. So that's how we got here. And again, there's the photograph shows there's two sonotube concrete footings, and then there'll be a footing under the stairs. My guess is that it's 7 to maybe 10 feet of disturbance. And
Attorney Fazone?
Yep.
My opening here, when I made comments, I really think that it's almost not even fair to call it disturbance. I think this structure, such as it is within the area that was approved to have the footprint of the house in. So if we didn't call this a landing or a deck, it's within the footprint that was approved. I don't think he's asking for anything. I mean, just because it happens to be an appendage on the house and not heated space, it's within the footprint, I think, that we approved. I don't.
Within a foot or so, Tom, and I'm not gonna go and quibble about a foot or two under the circumstances.
Yeah, I just think to me, it seems like it's okay. It falls within the permit we gave him. It's just a deck or a landing instead of the structure. And
So would we be able to approve an application for this, or are you saying that it doesn't matter? Because it seems that if we say it doesn't matter, that's totally contradictory to what we said at the meeting of May 7th, 2019 on page 4, when both Chairman DeJong and Dr. Dimick said that we specifically needed a separate application for this. And I don't know that we can do the opposite of what we said needs to be done. I have no problem with approving it. It seems minimal to me also. I just don't think we should contradict what we've done in the past.
I think we should do whatever's easiest. My position is that it really is within the footprint of the house that we approve.
I think I'll go with that, Tom, and that solves the whole problem of not needing an additional permit. Although he does need to put some kind of a railing on there.
Yeah, well, that'll be for.
I agree. And why it's not landing on a bunch of chunks of wood? So I'm more concerned about what they're going to dig up to put the cement underneath those steps. But whatever. I mean, it's minimal.
Yeah. Yep.
We going with de minimis or have a good evening? What?
The only thing that's not minimal is the fact that he was told he needed a permit. He knew he needed a permit. He knows the regulations, and he didn't get a permit, which, okay, he didn't get a permit, but we have a procedure where we allow a permit after the fact, and all it needs is to be applied for. If he thought that without getting a permit, he could go right ahead and sell the house, well, he wasn't thinking. Fortunately, he's got an attorney who can advise him of what's going on, and now he needs the permit after the fact.
And so can we just grant that tonight, a permit after the fact?
There has to be an application.
I'm not comfortable just saying, oh, let's pretend we didn't tell him he had to do this because it's easy. I'm not in support of
Carrie,
that.
a permit after the fact is actual application that comes in. So what's being
and we don't have that.
Right. Tonight, it's being requested a determination of whether what exists currently is de minimis or found to be in keeping with the permit, just that the determination of whether it needs a permit or not.
Okay.
Listen, but we have to figure out, first of all, back to Tom's credit, is we have to figure out, is this within the applied area of the permit?
Mm-hmm. It appears to be.
It appears to be then. So then, in my opinion, we have no jurisdiction.
Well, it's a point of clarification for staff because I'm being asked to sign off on the CO. And whenever this has come up before that something looks different than the approval or there's something added on, if there's a deck, a landing, what have you, that I'm not authorized to administratively make the decision to say, I think it's within the realm. If it's not specifically shown on the permit, then it needs some comment by the commission. And so that's what this request for determination can do. It can be twofold, that the commission can decide whether or not this needs a permit. And then secondarily, then I will know, okay, then if it doesn't need a permit, then the commission is authorizing me to sign off on the CO.
Okay. So then if, in all due respect, Suzanne, in Tom's defense, so for clarification, and I'm sorry, I'm not seeing it with all the maps.
That's okay.
If this deck and steps all fall within the approved previous commission approvals, then I personally would say then I would agree with you having the authority to sign off on it. If it is outside of that footprint, if you will,
then I think we have further discussion. But I think if it's already been pre-approved and it's within those dimensions, if you will, then we have to allow it to go. Anybody agree?
And the
that makes
commission is
sense.
not bound by the parameters of what's shown on the approval because this is the commission, let's just say, just for argument's sake, any part of the structure is located even closer to the upland review area. The commission still has the ability right now, under the request for determination, to make a determination of whether a permit is needed. So it doesn't have to fall within that same footprint of what was
I agree.
approved.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just trying to be sensible though, you know, I mean.
Yes, no, I understand.
If I may address Ms. Dunn's and Mr. Kurtz's concern about that an application would be necessary and the applicant knew about that. Remember, that was a 10 by 10 foot deck. And I agree that if this were a 10 by 10 foot, then it would certainly be outside of the footprint that was originally approved and would need the application. But the fact that it's within that area and or that it's really de minimis here in terms of what the disturbance in the upland review area is. And also the fact that it's at the far edge of the upland review area, nearly 50 feet away from the wetland.
Nearly or exactly?
No, it's about 44 feet away, I think.
Thank you, Charles.
Yeah, eyeballing it the best I can.
Okay. I'm just trying to clarify it for the record. Listen, folks, I have no problem with it. I think it's de minimis, and based on the applicant's history, we're discussing this probably to nauseam. But I wanted to clarify Tom's point that I agree. If it's within the approved area, then we should just consider it de minimis. Either way, I have no problem with it, but I just was trying to state my point.
Yeah.
Okay. So is that a motion? Or do
If
we
you
need
can
a motion?
if you can make a motion out of that, then go right ahead.
No, I don't want to.
I will move that based on the information provided that these applicants' changes are de minimis and a warrant is a permit is not required.
Is there a second?
Second that.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, I think we should vote, but I don't know about aye or nay this particular time. We may need to know how many people are voting in favor of this motion. Is that understood, or is there a problem with that?
Nope, that's understood.
Okay, should we vote by individual?
Yep. I'll
Okay,
vote in favor of this motion.
So am I supposed to do the roll call or does Suzanne?
I would
We've
say
never
the
done
roll
a roll
call.
Would you like me to
before.
call down the list?
Yes, that would be great.
Sure.
Would you like me? Okay, so I'll call down the list, starting with Chairman Kurtz,
No.
Vice Chairman Dr. Dimick,
Yay.
Secretary Carrie Dunn,
No.
Dave Brzezowski,
In favor.
Will McPhee,
No.
Tom Norback,
Aye.
Okay, so we have 6 members and it's 3-3.
So the motion failed.
So
Mhm.
motion fails.
So we need to require a permit after the fact then.
Should we caucus, or do we have an easier way out?
I don't know.
I think because the motion fails, if the tie vote, the motion fails, then the next step down the line was the proposal to ask to file a permit after the fact.
As a motion, to ask that as a motion and then take the poll? No, that doesn't make sense.
Well, the only thing left is to file the permit.
Yeah, I would think, since it just failed,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, so it failed, so then it's at a standstill. So then it failing then also indicates that I cannot sign off on the certificate of occupancy?
That would be my
That's
reading.
correct.
Okay.
Is there any way to expedite this type of a procedure?
If an application came in, it would follow the same guidelines of, it would have to wait the 14 days after it's been before the commission. So even if we received something for the June 16th meeting, let's say that the commission was okay and wanting to draft a motion for approval, that at the soonest could not get approved until July 7th.
Okay, so that's the rule. That's the way it is. I was wondering if we could accept the application tonight and have a draft motion for our next meeting. If that's within the rules.
We'd have to
Well,
have the application filed today to be able to get it considered at the next meeting. That's what.
And the disadvantage of having the digital meeting is that we're not in person, so there's no ability for, writing up an application right now during this meeting before the meeting
That's true.
closes.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Is Attorney Fazone still available to say that verbally the application will be filed tomorrow, or is that not allowed or no?
It goes by date of receipt, and the date of receipt is the next meeting date. So anything that's received tomorrow by our office will get a date of receipt of June 16th.
But
So then
wouldn't
it's
they be
still
able to email it to you this evening if they needed to expedite it?
No, because the meeting will be closed. It has to happen before the meeting closes.
Yeah, there's no way we can get an application in.
Okay.
I'm just
Yes,
trying.
You made a valiant effort for your client, just.
I think, I don't know if Ed can get one filed. I'm out of town all day tomorrow. So I don't think we can even come close to the 14 days.
You can file it on a napkin, but could you email it since we're not physically together?
Yeah.
But it have to be received by the office, and the office isn't open till tomorrow. That's.
Meeting's not adjourned yet.
So
Well,
you can send
to
it
be
to, you can send it to Suzanne's business phone.
Well, if you emailed it to me right now, but the
What would
meeting
I
will
be
have to
emailing?
stay, the meeting would have to stay open by time I receive that email.
You mean during
We
my?
could probably handle that. Doesn't take much, right?
No.
Well, the
I don't
application
know.
form has more in it, needs to be signed by the applicant.
I agree, and I know
Right,
there's that
yeah.
provision, but I remember a situation with James Fazone where he wanted determination, and it was not determined he could do what he wanted to do, and he wrote an application, rudimentary form that was given to the commission, and that's satisfied as the application, and the proper paperwork was filled out subsequent to that evening.
Yeah, but he was able to put an actual signature on what he presented at that time, even though it was rudimentary. That's the problem.
Yeah, but to Earl's point, we're all having to change the way of doing things to the E world. So I know we all we have to stay legal, but
What if you treated it as a, assuming the applicant's willing to do this, and I can't make that determination for him, I can consult with him. But if you treated it as a modification of the existing application,
I think it's
Well, it would
an
still be an application. So it would still
Right,
be
but-
something that,
but based on what you have, I could certainly send an email
Mhm.
that asking this to be treated as a modification of the application based on the materials submitted.
I would be in agreement with that.
well, how about we give it a try and then I can confer with the town attorney tomorrow and
Right.
see how this goes. You know, if this counts.
Oh,
Let's hope it
boy.
does. Let's hope it does.
Yeah, it can't hurt, right? And it might work. So we
Oh,
can
I think it's
stay-
important we do it. The applicant needs to follow the rules.
I gotta say.
We
I
don't need to
you know,
punish
that
him
once
unduly.
we've gone down this road and Mr. Barnett's gone down this road. Now we are indeed trying to help him get out of this mess. So, you know, I think at that point, we're doing all we can do.
Okay,
So
so
if
I
but
doing an
no matter-
application.
Pardon me?
I'm sorry, you were speaking. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying that if he treated it as a modification to the application, do we not have to wait the 14 days?
No, I believe it's every application that comes in has to wait the 14 days because it allows for a time period of, you know, people to review it and come to a meeting and ask questions and all of that. So I don't think that it matters if it's a brand new application or a modification. It's still another application that's coming in, so it gets treated the same way with the 14 days.
But is one
After-
easier to do tonight via email?
So it's 14 days after acceptance, right, Suzanne?
Yes, and the acceptance is the date of receipt. So that's the next meeting date.
Right, so it can't be accepted until the 16th. And then you
Correct.
can't act on it for 14 days after that.
Correct.
Well, I think we can accept it tonight.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we can try. There's
Why not?
the-
We can just email it to Suzanne. We'll stay
Our
open
governor
for the
will
next
support
10
us.
minutes. Yeah, we'll stay open the next 10 minutes so you can get it in, and then you can get it on the meeting in 2 weeks.
COVID, blame it on COVID. Blame it on COVID.
Yeah, exactly.
We're trying to help out here.
So I think Ed has his hand raised, and I'm not sure what this is. So I'm gonna, it doesn't give me an option to have him speak. It just gives me an option to lower the hand. I don't know,
He's trying to connect.
yeah, I don't know if he can hear me.
Well, can Attorney Fazone submit the application as representing Mr. Barnett? And if we find out that the application fee is not forthcoming, then we don't have to worry about acting on it. Next meeting, we could just deny it.
Well, we'd still have to wait the 14 days. So,
But the email doesn't work tonight?
well,
Yeah.
we're gonna try. We
Yeah.
will see
Okay.
how this works, and I will check with all the legal experts tomorrow to see.
All right.
Let's
so can-
assume it's gonna work. These are strange times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is the attorney is typing email now, hopefully?
I am. I'm trying to, I have to do it on my phone.
Okay.
Good.
But
Good.
all I'm gonna say is please accept the existing documentation as a application to modify the existing approval.
I'm in agreement.
Yeah, maybe the town attorney has a sense of humor.
Like you do.
I don't think he's going to approve this.
Well, it's worth a shot.
Yeah.
We're trying to help you.
So, Mr. Chairman, as we are waiting on that, I just wanted to circle back to the call for the public hearing for Hazel Drive. And there was a mention that it was being called for public interest. And if I could just put on the record, because Carla Mills did send me an email asking for clarification, to just put on the record that to hold a public hearing for public interest is the reason it's cited, and that is section 9.1C.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
Charles, I was asking you for that. Help me out, Charles.
Yeah, what, the section or?
Yeah, that's your expertise.
Yeah, I don't have my references with me for, were you talking about the citation you just got or what?
Yeah. No, Suzanne's right on, 9.1.
Yeah, Suzanne's got it. Yeah.
I'm just teasing.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Help me out, yeah.
So Suzanne, what's the section on application amendments? Huh, I can't remember. No, it's okay. Don't worry about it. I was just curious
Okay.
since we had some time.
I don't even know if there is one, but find that out after we do this.
Yeah, section 7, I think.
Yeah, the problem is if I go to a physical meeting, I bring that sack with me that has all those things in it. But right now that sack is upstairs.
I want to eat supper and hit the sack.
What do I do, Tom? Give you a suggestion for something?
Suzanne, is there a required fee with this application to this amendment to an application?
Well, it would be a.
I just don't want the fee to screw
Modify.
things up.
Yes, I agree.
And if there is a fee,
I will waive it.
I would waive it just so that it doesn't complicate his application.
Well, that is an interesting that you bring that up, because I was just looking into
It's
waiving a
section
fee and what
Okay.
authority the commission has to waive a fee for something entirely else. And when I was looking at the regulations today, that there is no format structure in there for the commission to waive a fee. So
Okay, 'cause-
it seems as though, in looking at the fee schedule, that the commission does not have the ability to waive fees.
I think
Okay.
the only one who can waive a fee is the town council.
Okay,
Oh, thank you, Anthony.
thank you. You're acting as our counsel.
He's a veteran.
I know.
So then the question of fee then also plays into permit after the fact,
Oh,
of
God.
whether this is something, yeah, so that may be discussion for another meeting once I have further discussion or with the town attorney and can figure this out. So Anthony, did you just send something?
I did.
Okay,
I also just received an email that, and I don't know what that, how much that does, but Mr. Barnett says that this will definitely cause him to lose the buyer to this house. But your motion's been made and
Now, Anthony, just to clarify, in the email that you sent, you referred to it as 539 Cornwall Avenue when it is
569. I'm sorry.
569.
Well, like I'm saying, can you just print that and change it when you get in the office?
If you can make note of it on the record, then I can change it. Or if you just want to state on the record that it be changed to
Yeah.
569.
It deals with 569, and please change that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I have then the questions
Actually,
put together.
the subject matter says 569.
Yes.
So
Yes. Okay, well, I will contact the town attorney and then get further information out to the commission about this.
Thank you.
Okay,
okay, thank you.
thank you.
Should be noted that had we had notice earlier that there was going to be a problem of this sort, we could have dealt with it earlier. But when something drops in on us at the last minute, we're doing the best we can. And it's a time factor.
Okay.
I feel good about what we did. We made sure that the regulations were upheld, and we did all we could to accommodate the applicant, and only somebody else could tell why a buyer isn't gonna wait 2 weeks to close the deal.
I believe it has something to do with their mortgage commitment, but that's really neither here nor there.
Well, we gave it a shot. You know, we beat it up pretty good. We talked about it.
Well, okay. I don't feel good about it if you can't get his sale, but I feel good that we did uphold the regulations. Is there any more business to come before this meeting?
No, there isn't.
Okay, then I say we can adjourn at 9:30.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you,
Okay,
everyone.
very good.
Thank
Good
you.
job.